Welcome, everybody, to another CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and today on the menu, of course, is Pro Audio. That's what we've decided to finish off our season with because this is an emergent category that if we feel is our duty to make sure you, the dealers, are aware of what the offerings are within this emerging category. Now, Ground Zero, we've had them on before, of course, for multiple reasons, whether it was for motorcycle audio or for high-end audiophile audio. But today we're going to be talking about Pro Audio. And man, do these guys have an amazing offering within that segment. So let's connect with their Canadian distributor. We're going to bring in the 12-volt Viking himself, Jaron Gelmalan from Importel.
How's it going today, Ben?
Jaron, we are having fun, you and I, because you and I happen to be spending a lot of time together within this Pro Audio segment, and we are learning about it. And the one thing I can tell you for sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is how fun this Pro Audio business is.
Yeah, it's certainly fun. It's a party. Let's just call it what it is. Pro Audio's loud. You want to be heard. You want people to come near. It's a party. I think it's one of the funnest categories I think we have to deal with within the audio brand, and I think more people should explore it just to have fun.
What I really wanted to kind of demystify or debunk today, Jaron, is, I've heard dealers say, Pro Audio, that stuff is inexpensive. It just plays loud and brash. I have a feeling what we're going to cover today completely debunks that statement.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's preconceptions about Pro Audio is it's cheap, loud, you're just trying to make noise, and it's a vehicle filled with speakers everywhere. But I think we'll learn that there's a lot of differences. It maybe open some people's eyes to some of the differences and some of the opportunities that there is within the segment.
100%. I'm going to call out Jacob Brown because he's the first time I ever heard this term was about a year ago when we were talking about Pro Audio for the first time on CMA. And he used the term Pro SQ, a term that I had never heard before that time. And I'm starting to understand what that's all about and the direction that, Ground Zero is trying to go with that. Because just because you want it loud doesn't mean you don't want high quality, doesn't mean you don't want refined components, and so on and so forth. And I think what we're about to learn today with Ground Zero is they address that type of customer.
Certainly.
All right. So let's go ahead and connect with our product expert today. You've seen him before. Of course, he's the director of operations for Ground Zero, Mr. Jacob Brown. Come on in, Jacob. Where are you at, Jacob? Come on in. There you are. There you are. What's going on?
What's going on, man? Last of the party, apparently.
Well, the last of the party, but the party's just begun, and we wouldn't really kick off the party, especially we're talking about Pro Audio without you. So, I want to call you out on that one. I remember the first time I heard that term, it was from your mouth. And, is that still relevant? Is that still a thing, or is it more relevant than ever? Pro SQ.
I think the biggest thing is it's more relevant than ever. And I think at least with Ground Zero and what we've seen with a lot of other companies, either reaching into other segments of their company and bringing in pro gear or developing it from the ground up, there's a lot of people who have been made aware that this is important. And a lot of these companies are great. They're doing great things, but we've been doing it for a long time and we've been doing it from a car audio basis. So for us, it's as important now as it ever has been. And the biggest thing for us is exactly like you said, it's helping people understand, it's getting people to adapt, to learn. This is new to some, this is old to others, and just kind of going full circle with it and doing cool, fun stuff.
What I'm trying to get dealers to understand, Jacob, is, high end is in the eye of the beholder. Right? High end refers to quality, refers to componentry, refers to engineering and refinement of a product. How that product sounds is, of course, ultimately subjective to the listener and the way that they want to hear it. And I think what we're going to see, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that Ground Zero caters to that higher end customer that wants that volume, that live sound, but in a refined way.
I'll do you one better. It's not just the customer that wants high end and loud and refined. It's the entire spectrum of car audio clientele that could walk into a retail shop. Mm-hmm. So whether it's the guy that, understands that we've got to go full tilt fab, we've got to go full DSP'd, we've got to do everything, or it's the kid that walks in and goes, hey, I really like bass. I want a 15, during your process and your qualification, you established that kid wants a 15 vented on 3,000 watts of power. What are you going to put in the front of that car to keep up
with that? Right.
Exactly. And that's the cool thing that we do is we cover almost, if not all, of the bases when it comes to adapting pro or the pro mindset into the car audio world, because first and foremost, we are a high-end and full tilt car audio manufacturer that also happens to have an entire pro or competition segment within our product categories. Amazing. So it's really cool to be able to talk to that customer and go, you know what, I got a solution for you, and be able to steer them down that path. The hardest thing is getting retailers, like you mentioned, to know that this is still a cool thing to do, and this is still
our job is to continue messaging that, and hopefully it clicks at one point. So we're just going to be relentless in our messaging and give them the information. So on that note, I know we have a presentation. Let's bring that up. I'll leave you to the two guys in the orange shirts today because they matched the twinsies today.
This is red, bro.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
red.
It's red. You're colorblind.
Fair enough. I'm colorblind. I'll let you guys go through that, and I'll take notes, and I'll come back, and obviously at the end we'll have a discussion about it. Here we go.
Thanks, Ben. So we're definitely talking about Ground Zero today, an important brand for us, and the offerings that they have within the Pro Audio lineup. So I think this is everyone's initial thought when they think of Pro Audio, right, Jacob?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because when you think Pro Audio, it's stunt walls or builds like this, or the mindset of like door panels for days. And what you and I have talked about over the last couple of weeks, really driving home, is getting guys to think this is what they're imagining, but this isn't all we're about.
Yeah, there's more to Pro Audio than just this. And that's why it's important to start here, and let's see what other offerings we have within it.
Exactly. So the cool thing about our product line is, in the rundown is definitely it's broken up into different parts of that pro mentality. So we've got our Red Basket series, or our competition pros, which are kind of the top tier of what we do. So this is your get loud. This is your, throwing a voice. This is your behind the car, or, kind of all around. However, it's still a car audio product. So it still sounds incredible when put in that right application and tuned for that customer that knows what it is. But, as you mentioned here, not only is it SPL, it's also cool, crazy, fun things like we see, the semi-truck walls in Brazil, where, a semi pulls up to an event, opens up, there's something like 1,000,000 watts of power and all kinds of drivers. And, they focus those walls, and all of a sudden you've got a line of dust coming up out of the sand because of this mindset in this fun competition world. But that's not all pro is.
Yeah, like I know the first time I heard the competition pro stuff was actually in a side-by-side of all things, and it threw sound like crazy. Like you wouldn't believe how loud that side-by-side was, even 6-10 feet from it in open air, on how loud but still how clear it was.
Exactly.
We can't forget that loud is one thing. Anyone can be loud, but it's to be clear and reproduce that music how it's meant to be reproduced, even being loud and further away.
Yeah, and I mean, basically what you said is what has been the driving force of not only the competition pro series, but also the competition line for Ground Zero for like the last 15 or 17 years. I mean, we've been doing this. We've been doing this for a while. And, this isn't our first rodeo, but again, it comes back to the fact that we have been a high-end car audio manufacturer that has dabbled in this for so long that we've done a lot of cool stuff. But, like I said, the line just isn't limited to our pro series. There's so much more that goes along with it.
Certainly. So we're going to talk about the pro audio design and the car audio DNA within it. What's a little bit different about how Ground Zero approaches their car audio, pro audio lineup?
Well, I think I think you just nailed the key there. It is a Car Audio Pro hybrid product line across the board. So the key focus, and like you said, is it is still car audio product.
Yeah, certainly still car audio product, and it still fits within those applications. It still has the thought process there that this needs to go in a door panel, or this tweeter needs to be mounted somewhere still within the car, to not jump just to the wall or just to speaker arrays that pro audio is common. I think there's different ways of approaching it, and I think every company kind of approaches it different. Either they take their car audio DNA and move it into the pro audio segment, which Ground Zero did, or they have a pro audio line and they try and make a car audio.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely.
So go ahead, Jacob.
Oh, I was gonna say the cool thing is, when we look at it from a car audio perspective, like you had just said, a lot of our product is still designed to go in a traditional install, but a lot of it requires custom fab. So not only do we have an entire line of various tweeters, an entire line of various coaxes, as we'll discuss later, mid ranges, mid basses, the whole shebang. We really do take that mindset of a traditional car audio installer who might not necessarily be comfortable with some of these products, and be able to make it easily adapt over to their mindset and help them go down that path, go down that road.
So like the different tweeters that you guys have that are common are the bullet tweeters, obviously the waveguide, dome compression, but then something that a little different, the traditional silk dome tweeter from Ground Zero. Can you touch on that one?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about the 25M and also the 25 SQL is, we have a waveguide compression tweeter, or we have a waveguide tweeter, but it's a silk dome. We have a 25M, which is a Mylar dome, 25 millimeter traditional mount, standard housing style tweeter. If you've used any of the coaxes, the GZCF 6.5, 8.0s, and 69 SPLs, we took that tweeter off of that driver and made it a standalone tweeter kit. So now you do have that ability to, again, use something that you've always known or always understood how to install, how to mount, everything along those lines. But we've adapted it over to kind of an SPL or a pro style mentality. So again, it's that stepping stone. It's that ability to bring a standard audio facility kind of over to the pro world, or over to the dark side, if you want to call it that, and get them to easily adapt over without having to say, okay, well, I've got this throated horn that I need to install in a door somehow, and I'm scared of it because it's 8 inches deep. How am I going to do that? Well, we can kind of get away from that, and again, not rely solely on a standard bullet tweeter or something along those lines, to be able to get some additional output to help that customer get exactly what they want. So those two tweeters are really kind of cool to me, coming from the higher end SQ world in car audio, and even taking me and bringing me into pro, which happened a while back, but now being able to have that conversation with a retailer or you guys and be able to say, hey, here's some stuff that you're comfortable with, that is now that stepping stone, makes life a whole lot easier.
And power handling on the tweeters, is it certainly increased in this line?
Well, what we really look at is more efficiency. So it's a tweeter is able to handle power better than a traditional like car audio tweeter. So it's motor design, it's suspension, it's cone design, it's all of those things which allow you to not necessarily rethink your thought process on pairing products together, just understanding, okay, these drivers do this, they do it this way. And that's something that we can certainly talk about, the whole rethinking that mentality once we kind of get through some of the products. And I think that's a really, really important point.
So this gives a good color scheme breakout for It's very color coordinated. It's easy to follow in the different series within the competition lineups. Ground Zero is very good at grouping the products together, like you said, in different product lines that are relatively easy to follow. Can you touch on the different, I guess, color segments within the competition lineup?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the cool things, and if you look at part numbers are also kind of that grouping. So when you look at something like the air quote yellow basket, which is, your far left driver, you've got actually GZCKs. So what that is indicative, or what that basically explains, is ground zero, competition, kick woofer. So this is going to be your traditional mindset of a mid-bass driver. So this is your 50, 60 hertz and above, can blend in with a tweeter depending on if you're going 6 or 8. The 10 really kind of wants something in the mid-range to go with it. And that is where we kind of shift over to a GZCM, so a ground zero competition mid-range. And then from there, we break down into a pro or a standard competition line. So the black baskets, for example, are kind of the best all-around mid-range. They are not necessarily the loudest, but frequency range on them is a little more wide than the red basket or the pros, but you're not necessarily going to have the output. So some guys might look at this driver and go, this is a much more familiar driver to me. This is something I'm going to be able to use a little bit better and not necessarily feed it gobs and gobs of power to wake it up. Where the red basket or the pro line really does like power. It likes an even more limited frequency range. So, this is kind of the difference between, let's say, a 3-inch mid-range and a 2-inch mid-range. In the pro world, we really have to rethink what our concepts of driver applications are. So in this particular case, we've got the GZCKs, which are your traditional 6, 8, 10 in a car audio application. But then all of your GZCMs are like your 4s, your 3s, your 2.5s. That's really where the GZCMs come into play. So it's not only understanding the breakdown of color, but also how it applies to what it is that you're trying to accomplish for your customer.
Yeah, you almost got to kind of rethink your thinking, everyone. When you say mid to someone in car audio, you said exactly like your 3, 4, 2.5 inch, where you have to almost backpedal and rethink. Yeah, it can be an 8, but it's still a mid woofer at 8, just based on the frequency response of that woofer. It's still an 8. So like you said earlier, your traditional 3-way setup is completely different in a pro audio segment than it is within a standard car audio segment.
Exactly. And that's really one of the biggest things is once you kind of retrain to understand the higher echelon of pro and how it can apply, there are definitely just small thought processes to rethink. And like I said, the GZCKs, the 6.5 and the 8 compare well with a tweeter. That's a traditional car audio mindset. But once you start getting into 3-ways, you're not going 6-3 tweet. You might be going 8-6 tweet as opposed. So, just remembering that and understanding kind of where that goes is really the fun part about pro audio.
For sure.
I'm just
he laughs. He laughs about it. This one's exciting.
This one's fun. This one's real.
This is such a fun product. It's a relatively new product from Ground Zero, but I think this one is going to do very well within the motorsports motorcycle application, and I'm sure you guys have seen it already. Can you explain what the new red basket is?
So this is a new driver basically from the ground up. We took what we were missing. When we developed the GZCF 6.5, 8.0, and 69 FPLs, we kind of filled a void of a traditional coax. And those drivers are phenomenal, but they just aren't going to have the output that is necessary in certain applications. So what we've done is essentially redesigned one product and paired it up with another really gnarly product that we've got and made the 165 Neo Pro. So this driver is essentially an all new red basket GZCM driver, which, pay attention, you might see something similar come out, in the future, and paired it with our 20N Pro compression driver. So this is a small format, phenomenal tweeter paired with an amazing mid-range that is designed really for that application. This is a loud, clean, detailed throwing style driver. So, we see a lot of them in applications in fairings or lowers on Harleys. We see them a lot in kind of a direct in your face side-by-side application. But this is a similar style driver to what I am building kick panels for in my Passat. So, essentially I've got the early prototypes of these drivers still sitting here, which are, almost not even as good as the production models. And I will be building kick panels for those for my daily so that I can kind of get into a point source mindset. The way that car is set up, you sit low in the car, seats all the way back, path link distances are great. So, when we talk about Pro SQ, I can build an imaging, properly tuned, pinpoint accurate car that will do all kinds of crazy things down the freeway with the windows open and still maintain a lot of the things that I love about SQ. So this is a driver that I've really taken a lot of faith in with its ability to recreate sound, but do it with all the volume I could ever want. And so that's why I kind of giggle every time I see it. This is really a fun coax, especially when you are pairing it up with a traditional mid bass. So you're going to throw an 8 in the door or a 6.5 in the door in like the GZCK series. You now have a mid-range and tweeter, wide bandy type location, point sourcey type location that is going to absolutely give you everything you could want. So it's, again, I giggle, but it's a super fun driver to listen to.
Oh, it definitely is a super fun driver. And I think you touched on a word there that I don't think has been said in the Pro Audio segment is imaging. And the ability, like Ben was talking about Pro SQ, that you had brought up that point like a year ago, that you can still have an SQ type build with Pro Audio drivers and still have them image properly and still be refined, but also have that output, that power behind it. It takes a little bit of thinking, a little bit of tweaking, and a little bit of different mindset, but the possibilities are still there.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed a couple of cool cars in my career that are all Pro Gear, and these are, I don't want to say Mecha Podium cars, but these are cars that scored incredibly well. But a lot of it also had to do with the fact that, you could meet rules of output. You could meet rules of all the other things that a lot of SQ cars just don't do, because SQ is a different segment. And, again, it goes back to the conversation of SQ is subjective. So if I can build something for a client or a customer or a kid that, wants to get excited about car audio again, and I can do it in a way that's not going to disappoint them, that's really cool to me. And that's, it's funny that you changed the slides, because this is one of the products that I think is exactly that. This is a true entry level hybrid style of component. So this is our Iridium components with an SPL emphasis. So this is the same 25M Mylar Dome tweeter that we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, mixed with a more traditional, efficient mid bass or kick woofer. So the cool thing about this is a one box that you as a shop or you as a retailer can order, can stock. And when you get that customer that comes in and says, I don't want to spend a lot of money, but here's what I'm really looking for. I'd love to have great output. I want it to sound good, and I want it to keep up with, the subs that we've discussed. This is a product that is that stepping stone that can get you right in the door of, we're going to start embracing Pro. And this is the good to our good, better, best mentality that doesn't even stop at best. There is, elaborate. And that's kind of that, 10-6 tweet mentality that we've been discussing throughout this conversation. So the Iridium SPL is a really cool set of components for me, because it is that transition piece. It's that stepping stone. It's that learning curve starting point to get guys to go, hey, Pro doesn't have to be what I always imagined it was, or what I was always told, oh, I don't want Pro Gear because of XYZ. This is a great way to transition into that.
Yeah, I think this is an easy stepping stones for dealers. It's something that they're very used to. It's very traditional car audio, as we call it. But again, going back to the sharing of DNA between some of the lineups, that this is car audio, but it has that pro audio DNA. So if you're a shop owner, to put this on a display board, and the output that you would get from this set of speakers, and I think it's a good stepping stone into that pro audio segment. And like you said, it's a good entry level. I think the perfect customer for this is the kid, 16, 18-year-old kid that comes in and all they want is subs. Like that's their go-to. I want two 12s in my trunk. I want that loud output, or a 15 in a ported box, and you get that. And then, wow, the subs are awesome, but I can't hear the rest of the music. Like where did it go on my stock speakers? Like,
Exactly. And this is that cool, let's plant the seed. Let's, okay, cool. You want a 15-inch hydrogen in a vented enclosure. We know what that's going to do on, 1,500 or 2,000 watts of power. So, then we start really getting a lot of the retailers to go, hey, I might not necessarily have a product that can keep up with that. Well, if you sold them the hydrogens, you've got a solution. And that's, these GZICs, the GZCF coaxes are a phenomenal sounding pro-based series of coaxes that are standard baskets. So again, they're going to drop into a lot of applications. So, you might get that kid with a 99 Honda Civic that comes in and it's 6.5s in the front, 6x9s in the rear door, or in the rear package tray, and he wants that loud sub. Hey, guess what? I now have a solution for you that runs on, standard equipment that's going to be more efficient than what we normally do. And it's going to be able to keep up with what you're coming in telling me you want. And that's really cool when you can say, I've got solutions for the things you didn't even think about.
Yeah, certainly. It's all about solutions for customers. I think that's the biggest thing. And the more solutions that you have, I think, the more customers you're going to have. It's kind of the little math there.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
so,
Pro Gear doesn't stop at what we've been discussing. Again, this is fun stuff. There are so many segments of pro audio across the world. And that's one of the cool things about working with Ground Zero is the worldwide presence, the international presence. So, in Southeast Asia, we see very commonly our GZCC component kits put in just traditional installs of 2 ways in the car. We've got a thing called karaoke, which is really goofy, but imagine, they take a little hatchback and they make a mobile karaoke machine. So it's got the machine, it's got all the standalone audio equipment, it's all Pro Gear. We see a lot of the Ground Zero Pro equipment being used in applications like that. We've got, massive door panel installs like we see here. We've got stunt walls or trunk builds that are, crazy and over the top and designed for that party mentality. We've got, the kid that we've been talking about that wants just slightly more than standard. Pro fits into so many different aspects of the automotive 12-volt industry that, I think it's sometimes forgotten about.
Yeah, it's the forgotten little corner, but can have such a wide range of products. When you think about traditional car audio or high-end SQ stuff, it's like, okay, there's one mentality mindset on it, where there's so many options, and it's really, you can use your imagination. Hey, can I fit 4 8s in this door? Sure, why not?
Exactly.
What's stopping you? Do I want to fill my whole trunk? Yes. I want to open the hatch and have a whole bunch. I want 10 horn tweeters across here. I want to be the life of the party. I want to be the tailgate party. And I think we want dealers to look at stuff differently. And that's why we bring up all the different segments, that there's different options to all this. Will you find these customers out there that want builds like this? Certainly, they're out there. I think they're becoming more common because it's fun, but there's also the side-by-side market. There's the motorcycle market, which I know is huge down in the US there. Maybe not as big in Jacob's area, but like southern US where they ride all year round. Jacob still gets snow like us. So.
Well, not quite like you guys, but yeah.
Okay, we won't put like us. He still gets snow. We get lots of snow, but it's I think motorcycle audio we kind of touched on a little bit, but I think that's an emerging market for Canada. I think that's a huge opportunity for pro audio gear in motorcycles. And you guys, I know, always bring bikes to every show that you guys have that are all using this pro audio gear within the bikes, and the output of them is just insane. I know the first SEMA where we met you guys at, you guys were allowed to play the bike for 12 seconds every hour, I think it was, because it was so loud in that SEMA hall that it was just insanely loud. And they're like, okay, well, you can play the bike, but you got to limit it, right?
Yeah, they kind of changed the rules on us this year, and I think everybody there, pretty much everybody in any of these conversations that was at SEMA this year, had that warning. And the last day we got the warning before we even did anything dumb, and it kind of wasn't fair. But it's like, we get it, we understand. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it's we've seen a big emergence in the motorcycle and power sports industry, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're not going to start a Harley and ride down the road and hear a standard set of coaxes or components. It's just not going to work. Rethinking the thought process too. When we talk about re-educating the dealer or helping them go down the right path, a lot of it also has to do with the fact that open air environments, as soon as you start a Harley, let's throw all bass and mid bass or bass response out the window. Even if it's just sitting there, you're never really going to hear it. You might feel some things. So why build something with traditional product that gets to 90 or 110 dB, but half of it's lost as soon as you start the bike? So we've seen a lot of pro brands emerge into that power sports and motorcycle world, and we've seen some companies adapt over to it. So a lot of our products, you might see things like they're now weather resilient. I'm not saying waterproof because that's not what we're doing, but we are making them a little bit more able to stand up to rider conditions, which is really cool, because that way you can take a product that we know is going to sound good. We can treat it in a particular way so that we can still maintain the sound signature and the car audio DNA that we're going for by using a paper cone or something like that. And then helping these, the power sports world be able to embrace that product with less and less chance of issue or damage down the road because of something that we could prevent. So it's really cool to see the company and to see the input get put into products that are phenomenal for this segment entirely, because everything that we learn from, let's say, motorcycle audio can get transferred into side-by-side or boat or anything along those lines. What we know about car audio has helped a lot of the power sports world kind of change their ways and go after a more traditional sound signature with massive output. We've seen a lot of cool manufacturers develop some really phenomenal products with the help of car audio guys. So it's really cool to see what this pro segment has done, and be able to say, hey, we've been on it since the ground floor. And for us, that's really fun to be able to say, because it's something we've been doing for a long time, and to see other companies go, they're doing it right. We love what they're doing. We love how they're doing it. And we want to help grow that segment. Doing it the right way is really cool to me.
Yeah, certainly doing it the right way is the only way to do it, I think.
Exactly.
Well, maybe not the only way. The only way to stay in business properly.
Well, and the only way, I think, to really do the cool, fun stuff. And for me, it's all about cool, fun stuff. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see the segment doing what the segment is doing, with the emphasis of all the car audio guys that are getting involved in it. I think it's really cool.
I think anyone that's involved in car audio is in car audio for the cool, fun stuff. I don't know. That's why I'm here. I'm here to party. No,
that's why I'm here. So
it just like you go through product lines, and we'll bring Ben back and see if he's come up with any good questions from us. But I do a lot of these CMA videos with Ben, and me and Ben always have these discussions, and it, like, even just talking about these products and stuff, it makes you want to build stuff. It makes you want to, like, just try this stuff out. And I
Oh,
hope
bro.
everyone else gets excited like I do about it. It's like,
100%.
it's just, my brain starts going. I'm like, oh, what can I put?
So,
Can I put
so
this in
okay,
there?
I have 3 things I wanted to cover, if you don't mind. And I'll start with what Jaron is saying right there. You know what Pro Audio reminds me of? It reminds me of when we first got into car audio. I didn't get into car audio for, I wanted a soundstage and, high-end componentry. No, I got into car audio because I got influenced by a local shop. I showed up at their parking lot show, and bro had like 415s pounding it. And I was like, holy cow, I want that. Like, that's what got me into it. Like, being that life of the part, being that, how far can you push the envelope in a vehicle, right? From a sound perspective. So Pro Audio kind of reminds me of that, and that's fun and exciting, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, lots of different terminology that a lot of dealers might not be used to. Your kicks, mid ranges, mid basses. How do you identify, Jacob, which one to use and why?
So the biggest thing is going to be, getting familiar with the product and understanding, we had kind of covered it a little bit, but it's the, understanding the part numbers. So things like a kick woofer is a pro term. It's a European term to kind of put emphasis on mid bass. So mid bass specific style applications is usually where we see it. So things like the GZCK 250 XSPL, which is this monster right here. This is our 10-inch mid bass driver, but it is a kick woofer. And so being able to adapt over, just understanding that mindset and those terms really will make it easier to help establish what it is that we're trying to accomplish. I believe Jaron had said something in our conversation about it where, a dealer might throw out the word mid, and what they're referring to is not the tweeter. So at that point, I've heard guys say, well, I need the mid from this component set. And I'm going, well, there's no mid in a 2-way because it's a mid bass. So it's really just being able to get the conversation started to investigate or learn the terms to properly identify the drivers. And then once you get there, a mid bass driver in a 2-way usually plays up, 3,500, 4,500 hertz. That is a kick woofer for all intent and purposes when we're talking about that mindset. A mid, in the way that I understand it in car audio, is typically the 3-inch driver of a 3-way component kit.
A 3-way component set, right?
So when I think mid and I'm applying it to the pro world, it's that GZCM part number. It's that mid-range part number because it's the mid-range of the frequency band that you're trying to play in that section of the stage. So just really being able to take a step back and be a little more specific when referencing the drivers really is going to help change kind of this mentality of how do I grab this cool pro product and how do I apply it to the build that I'm trying.
Well, I'm not going to stop with the drivers because I'm going to have some questions about the tweeters. Different style tweeters. You have a Mylar dome, you got a bullet tweet, you've got a compression driver. There's all these types of tweeters. How am I supposed to know which one to use for which application?
So that's an interesting part of it because it goes back to the subjective conversation. If you're looking for, usually, something like a bullet tweeter is going to throw a little bit differently. Its dispersion is a little bit less than what we would anticipate from a standard tweeter. A standard tweeter like the 25M, so the Mylar 25 millimeter, is going to behave more like a standard car audio tweeter. But then we've got the 25 SQL, which is this little guy right here, which is one of my favorite tweeters, but it is a 3-inch waveguide with a 25 millimeter silk dome behind it.
Let's see that again. There you go.
You wanted to zoom in. Mm-hmm. So it's really a cool little driver, but it's going to kind of bridge that gap between dispersion and efficiency while still having a silk dome. So it's going to be a little bit more of a comfortable sound signature to certain people. So for me, it is a lot of subjective behavior or mindset. It's going to be, what do I like? What am I used to? And for me, I am always one of those audition people. So if pro audio is something that you're thinking about getting into, don't hesitate to grab a couple of different products. Don't hesitate to find local cars that have something, from a consumer standpoint, for example, that have pro builds in them, and really kind of get comfortable with what it is that you're listening to, because there might be some parts that you love and some parts that you hate.
which got me interested because you were mentioning how you were building your kicks into your Passat and that you were using a coaxial for that setup. Is there a reason for that?
It works in that car. It's really weird. When this car was built the first time, it was built with a 10 ported in the door, a 6.5 mid in the kick, and a small format compression driver on a traditional throated horn. So a Stevens or an Image Dynamics style horn. And when I rebuilt that car, I changed over to our 20N Pro compression driver with a very similar remaining style of the build. So I found out that, when you take horns and mount them under the dash, but in that listening position of that vehicle, you're so far back and so low that path link distances work. Mm-hmm. Everything matches. Everything is right there. So I am really guinea pigging this and be able to say, okay, these are coaxes, or, it's something that you can accomplish with a different style driver in a kick. And we're all familiar with doing a kick panel install. So again, it's a car audio mindset being brought into this.
It is, because pro audio and kick panels aren't really a thing. Usually it's in the doors and you got some tweeters up high, maybe even on the door for that matter. But that's why I was curious about your choice. And Elias says your car sounds good. Just so you know.
I kind of stumped him one day because he had no idea what was in the car, and I put him in it. And I had just gotten done with some redo. I just gotten done with some amplifier changes, and kind of was like, dude, it's not tuned. It's kind of garbage right now. And he gets out and I'm playing some music, or he gets into the driver's seat. We're playing some music. And he's like, oh, this is really good. And I just keep turning it up. And he's kind of looking at me like I'm crazy. And I just keep turning it up and turning it up and turning it up. And we kind of got to a point that he just looked at me like, you're going to blow stuff up. And we got out and we started discussing what was in the car. And it really kind of opened his eyes to how pro audio can be used in an SQ style build. Mm-hmm. Because nothing else changed. It's the same amplifiers that I would use in a traditional car.
So interesting that you brought that up. I'll let you finish and then I'll go circle back to the amplifiers. Yes. You want me to go there now? I'll go there now.
We can go there now if you
want. Okay,
want.
because I just happen to notice I'm writing notes down. We're talking about tweeters. We're talking about mid-ranges. We're talking about mid-basses. Why are there no pro amplifiers? Does it not take a different type of spec for an amplifier to perform in a pro setting?
No. I mean, what we look at, and I'll say it from the conversation point of Pro SQ, which is something I'm comfortable and familiar with more so than Power Sports and some of the others. But what you're looking for is you're looking for power and you're looking for quality. So what would be the difference between putting a Pro Gear driver that wants 110 watts RMS at 4 ohm on versus a car audio speaker that wants 110 watts at 4 ohm? Really what the mindset change is just driver frequency capability. How low is that 6.5 going to dig? How low is that 10 going to dig? So once you relearn the drivers, you're still matching power. You're still wanting to build a quality build. An efficient speaker that's highly sensitive is going to bring out flaws almost in an amplifier, such as inherent noise floor in an amp or signal chain, stuff like that. So you really do want to use quality products that you're comfortable with and that you're familiar with in this pro style build. So when again we talk about rethinking the process, to me the only thing that really changed is the drivers themselves. So you can overcome a lot of things just by swapping the drivers, but keeping your amp theory, your DSP, your head unit, all of that stuff can stay the same as long as you're matching power like you would in any traditional build. I believe Power Sports, a lot of those guys like to overpower things, but a lot of the great, we're talking about building a bike with massive amounts of dynamic headroom. Again, that's an SQ term.
Andy, who we had on, he was talking about like 800 watts of driver. I'm like, on a motorcycle? That's crazy. But he's like, yeah, we want that headroom.
But that's the biggest thing is the bike that we took to K-Fest Vegas had something like 22,000-ish watts of power on tap, but I think it clamped at like 9, including the subs. So it's one of those things that when you look at dynamic headroom, if I can get away from driving an amp to clipping and distortion, if I can get away from all these things, I'm still accomplishing the same goal that I would if I built any other car audio or any other power sports build. And I think, anybody that you talk to in these conversations is going to say the same thing. We still have to look at what the driver's capable of doing and how it wants to do it, and being able to translate that into something that most, if not all, retailers already know. We're already a step ahead of the game.
Very best. Okay. I'm done. You've answered everything. I think we've got great insight. I mean, we've covered it top to bottom. I think we've given the dealers what they need to know at the very least. I mean, I would be intrigued to at least try some stuff, order some stuff, put it on a car in a board, throw it into a box, do something.
I know you want these.
I do.
I know you want these.
I'll be honest. If I was to build, I'm not thinking. I don't have like dreams of 20 mid basses in my door. I would build it kind of traditional car audio style, maybe a 3-way in the front. If I can get away with an 8-inch, up front somewhere, and 2 12s, but yet I'll have some volume, which is nice, especially for depending on the vehicle, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's the cool thing is it's not you've got to go to an 8 or go to a 10. My car right now, I've been kind of guinea pigging the GZCK 165X SPL, which is just a 6.5-inch kick woofer.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I've got efficiency on my side. I'm not trying to get it to drive super deep. I've got it paired up with an 18 IB, which that sub should never do that. But it's one of those fun cars that,
according to Elias, it's controlled and stout. Your 18 IB, that is.
Yeah, it's effortless low frequency. Because again, I've got a Ground Zero Nuclear 18 on my IB wall. And I'm not trying to do an SPL style build. So yes, I've got it on massive amounts of power because dynamic headroom. I've got it paired with Pro Gear in the front because daily driver, windows down, not slow down the freeway because I'm a jerk like that. Mm-hmm. But it's effortless. And again, it just goes back to that thought process of it's things that we all know and we all do already. So yeah, it's just being able to take those things and apply them to the application that you're trying to do and go from there. I mean, my car is a Pro SQ style car, but that doesn't mean I can't take those same products, put them in a Pro style build. If I just took my 18 off my wall and built a vented enclosure, I would still have the front end to be able to keep up with that.
Sure enough.
And that's insane to just be able to swap out one box and
still be good.
Different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. On that note, Jacob, thank you so much for coming in. You're always appreciated when you come on to CMA, and your knowledge, of course, very appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Jaron, I'll close out with you. Yeah, we already know Ground Zero is kind of a cool line. I know that Importel is a big fan of it. What do you have to say? This was a pretty in-depth conversation today.
Yeah, it was pretty in-depth, and Jacob definitely pulled on personal experience for that. And his favorite term is Pro SQ, and I think Jacob's a big advocate for it, that just because it's Pro audio gear doesn't mean you can't have high fidelity out of it and have that high quality build out of it. And I think he goes to show that it can be done. And let's look at things a little differently. I think that's a realization for Jacob. Like, you're not reinventing the wheel. Like, you still same amplifiers, DSP, put different speakers in it.
Really, it's just the speakers. Really, it's just the speakers.
It's just the speakers, and to have that more output because they are a more sensitive speaker, they're a more efficient speaker. To get more output out of it, it makes sense.
100%. Thank you, Jaron, for coming in again today. I know we're busy this week with Pro Audio, but hey, your work is very much appreciated, and your time as well, sir.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care. For more information on Ground Zero products, as mentioned by both Jaron and Jacob today, you want to check out their website, groundzerousa.com. That's where it's at. And if you're in Canada and you want to be a Ground Zero dealer, well, reach out to the boys and girls at Importel. Importel.com, the distributor for Ground Zero in Canada. All right. What do I want to remind you? Well, I want to remind you that I want you to keep it locked here on CMA Networks because we're not done with Pro Audio yet. We've got a couple more presentations to go, a couple brands that are really into Pro Audio, and it's kind of an emerging category, so we're going to stay ahead of it. Tune in every day at 12 p.m. until November 17th. The one big thing I got to tell you about, we got a couple of days left to join our contest to win an all-inclusive trip to Master Tech Expo. We're choosing 2 winners, one from the US and one from Canada. Head over to cmanetworks.com/giveaway, and we're drawing 1 winner from the US and 1 winner from Canada, all-inclusive trip to Master Tech. And while you're on our website, make sure you check out all the great videos that we've already done with Jacob and Ground Zero and every other product from HKI, along with Importel. CMAnetworks.com. It's where the 12-volt industry connects. That's it for the CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
today where I'm gonna go
Yo.
topics.
Roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on Sirius XM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?